You have very liberal gun carry laws, but you don't have any murders to speak of. Very, very few. Where, you go to Chicago, which is not an easy drive, but not a bad drive from South Dakota, and they have very strict gun carry, gun possession laws, and they got unbelievable amount of homicides. Why? What's the difference?
Well, I appreciate the honest conversation, Bill. I think it's refreshing that's really what we need to be talking about is, do more gun laws really lower violence and rates of occurrence in many of these states? And that's just not true. So the conversation that Congress has been having, and by passing this bill, I love the fact that they're focusing on mental health and that people are talking about that and addressing, having more resources. But passing more gun laws and restrictions doesn't necessarily translate to less violence.
But do you know why? I mean, I did Vermont and New Hampshire last night. It's the same situation there. You can carry a gun, you can do whatever you want. They don't have any homicides. But in Chicago, they have all kinds of homicides, and so in New York City as well. Do you know why that's happening?
I think it's because those who perpetuate violence don't care about the law. They're going to get a gun.
So more criminals in Chicago and New York City than in Pierre, South Dakota, or Rapid City. That's what you're telling me, right?
Definitely, our people are happier in South Dakota. They're free to work together. They take care of each other, and they have respect for each other. I think that.
If you were appointed, and if I'm elected president, I'll appoint you to the Supreme Court. Would you have voted to send Roe v. Wade back to the states?
I would have gone a little deeper in to make a decision. Actually, probably what I would have done is probably what Alan Dershowitz suggests. I would have made the narrow decision really simply on Dodds versus Mississippi instead of taking sort of a broader.
So you would have done what Roberts did.
I would not have done what. Yeah, I would not have done what Justice Thomas did, because he threw in contraception and what else?
I didn't see the contraception. I saw the gay marriage thing because it's obvious. Marriage. Yeah, I don't think there was any contraception in there. But gay marriage, Judge Thomas believes, is the purview of the states, not the federal government. The federal government has no right.
Yeah. But why did he have to throw that in? Nobody was talking about it. See, that's sort of the Dershowitz thing. I mean, he went, and that was what Dershowitz says. Just decide the narrow issue before you, and rather than take sort of the broader. And although it makes a lot of people happy, but it would have. He went really. Really broad.
The COVID checks that went out to everybody that ignited inflation, and Trump's spending on the military and other matters brought the deficit way up. And now that the COVID and military spending has stopped, the deficit is coming down. Also, tax receipts to the government are at a record level, correct?
Because the stock market has gone way up last year, and all this money is pouring in. Won't pour in as much next year, and then the deficit will really explode.
So this is a deceit by Biden. Now, let me ask you a question. As a seasoned journalist, a guy who's been around, do you think Biden knows?
Do I think he knows
anything about economics at all?
No, he just knows he wants to do good. He wants trains, and he thinks if government spends on something, he likes it's an investment and it will return manyfold. And a few will, but most don't.
Do you respect their dissent?
I think it's childish. Okay. I am proud that they have the right to, imagine if they were in North Korea, they were in Venezuela, they were in, even Ukraine, in Russia. If they said something like that, or they did something like that, they would be black bagged and they would disappear for the rest of their lives.
Their argument would be, Tim, that they're trying to make the country better. All right, that their dissent on the 4th of July, giving the finger to the Supreme Court, they want a message that I, Jessica Chastain, or Katy Perry, or whoever they are, the Kardashians, we want to make things better. Isn't it noble to want to make things better?
It is. I want to make things better too. I'm in a position right now where I'm looking at this country, and I'm not so happy. I'm not so thrilled about the way our country has been performing in the past, year and a half. But I'm still so very proud of our country, and I'm very proud of our countrymen. And while there's always room for improvement, and I don't think ever should we be comfortable in where we're at, but always strive to be better. When you're on 4th of July, disrespecting the greatest country to ever exist on this planet, you look like a child.
Well, I don't know how much Joe Biden knows of what he's doing or the big picture. You obviously worked with a number of presidents. You know them personally, and you and Bill Clinton had a fairly respectful relationship, and that was one of the models that I used. I had a respectful relationship with Barack Obama. I have with most, not Nancy Pelosi. I think she's a destructive force in this country, and I could never reach détente with her. But with most on the left, we have a respectful discourse. However, I think Biden is diminished, and I don't think he really understands the unintended consequences of what he does. He couldn't possibly have an open border. Yet he's being used and manipulated by the progressive left. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, look, I think Biden basically is an old-time ward politician who at a very young age won a Senate seat in a small state, managed to keep getting reelected. I used to work with Biden. I don't think he's all that smart, but he's persistent. He's been out there a long time. I doubt very much if he knows much of what's going on or much of the ramifications of what's going on. He has surrounded himself with very left-wing and radical people. I think they basically run the place. I don't think anybody seriously believes Joe Biden runs the place. And I think that when you watch him in public, you realize this is a very limited person, and he's doing the things almost overwhelmingly that the left wants.
Now, you and Biden are just about the same age. I want to point that out because I mean,
Right.
you're pretty much on it, and he can't get 3 sentences out.